First up tonight would be Human Resources, Mike.
Okay, thank you very much. My first one, I don't know if you want to do the other one first, Kelly, or certain work days. Yes, I'm sorry. That's the one I was talking about. I apologize. So traditionally, I feel like every meeting I come to you guys, I have the same one. But again, we had to establish certain work days for positions that have either been, adjusted or a change of name. So this is just a standard 2714A that goes to New York State retirement.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. What else do you have?
So the second resolution is a request to modify an existing resolution that had been passed by the Board of Supervisors back at, I'm sorry, that's my dog. Holly, in 2000, I'm sorry. Let me just put you on mute for a second. I'm sorry.
Darn dog.
That's why I have a snake.
I apologize for that. I am so sorry. So it's a request to modify resolution number 381, 2015, dated October 14th of 2015. And what has happened is my office has been contacted a number of times, both by employees and department heads have forwarded complaints from individuals who are receiving services in our county departments, from our county staff expressing their individual beliefs or their individual thoughts through their clothing, through things on their desks, through things on their offices, through pins, through a potential banner. And so what's happening is we're being contacted by employees and by customers coming in to receive services, questioning as to, although they certainly respect that the individuals that we employ have every right to freedom of speech, both on their own time, on their breaks, during their lunches, before they come to work, in their lives, all of that. But there's been concerns that were raised by them about how they can portray those thoughts and those feelings when they're serving the public. So it prompted conversations and looking into what other counties and areas have in existence. And it's not a quest for infringing upon someone's right of freedom of speech. It's about the fact that when an individual is providing a service to the county during work hours, their personal opinions need to not be expressed when they're providing a service to a public person coming into a public building. So this resolution speaks to adding wording to this original resolution that was passed by the board in 2015, stating that as it's the policy of the County of Columbia to ensure inclusion of all residents of the county, as well as an environment that does not create a political or polarizing environment for members of the public when receiving county services. And while it is recognized that employees have their own opinions and values when interacting with the public to ensure the delivery of services, those individual and personal opinions cannot be imposed on the public. Therefore, the request would be to be resolved that any employee of the county during work hours who directly interacts with the public in the performance of their duties shall not exhibit any political statements, banners, clothing, pins, or other items that put forth a political position or view. This shall also apply to any county employee that is required to wear a uniform while performing their duties. Note that this does not preclude an employee from exhibiting such items in their personal workstation or on their person when not interacting with the public or when not wearing a county labeled uniform.
If I could jump in.
Hi, sure.
Hippie. This is, as you know, a resolution dear to my heart because I've worked on this a bit over the years with the tattoo problem. And I did in 2019, I suggested a change to that other resolution. No, I can't find it right here. And it had to do with speech because I know freedom of speech and all that, but I feel like I'm wondering if we can add in speech or action to this, because I feel like that's another problem is you might not have anything on your clothing, but then you're going to go to somebody and talk about some wacko in government. I would really love to add speech in there too, because I think as county employees, we should be just non-denominational is not the right word, but you know what I mean.
I have a
Rob, are you
question.
up? Does anyone already do that?
Yeah, Matt, I'm here. And yeah, Sarah, it may not expressly say that, but we wouldn't have someone, and I'll use the word campaigning, but advancing a position in the scope of their office duties in front of the public. That would be inappropriate under this resolution as well.
Yeah, the original one talks about phrases, words, and expressions for hate, but I think if we could add also your political or something in there. Thanks.
I have a question around, I wonder if you could be more specific about what counts as being political. I would think like, I certainly can imagine things that I wouldn't want, but if somebody was wearing an American flag pin or a pride pin, like, are those political? It's just sort of like it's sometimes it's kind of eye of the beholder, but I certainly see that certain things would be off limits.
Yeah, Mike, there's going to be some judgment and discretion. It's like the old adage of pornography, you'll know it when you see it.
Yeah.
So there is going to be some exercise of discretion. I just attended the County Attorneys Association training, and this was a topic. And the way it works is if someone's wearing, and I'll just use the example of if they're wearing a MAGA hat, which is for a particular political candidate, and it's polarizing to some people, offensive to some people, and supported by some people, them doing that in their service to the public is deemed potentially causing a hostile workplace environment, or it might be deemed offensive work environment to some or others. So if that's the case, and it's not required for them to be wearing that item when they're serving the public, then they would not be allowed to do so. So it's going to be a judgment call, as I said. It's specifically speech that's directed at or about a constitutionally protected class, race, religion, viewpoint, that is not part of the employee's work function. So they shouldn't be advancing it while they're on the clock or while they're interacting with the public. And additionally, you guys as supervisors have the governmental role to advance policies, procedures, and opinions through your interaction with government and for the residents. It's not the individual employees. We wouldn't let individual employees advance certain areas, views, protocols, or programs without your approval. That's why we go through this process on everything that we do. So we don't want them doing that on their own. Again, when they're interacting with public and when they're dealing with citizens, and especially something that could be incendiary, so to speak, to dealing with public or causing a conflict at a workplace.
Right. So if it was Pride Week or like, at a Pride event and a county employee was wearing a Pride pin or something, like some people might find that offensive. I don't consider that particularly political, but maybe somebody would say it is. Is that something that would be allowed?
Well, I think what we would do is we would treat it like someone who deemed it offensive would have to file a complaint. Someone who is another employee would have to say that it's offensive to them. And like we do with any other instances, the report would go to Human Resources, and then there would be an interview and an investigation and some discussion. And that's probably the best venue we have to make sure that this doesn't go too far and that, people still have the right to express themselves, but we're not creating hostile, offensive environments.
Right. Okay.
So may I ask a question? Why are we limiting this to interactions with the public? Because aren't county employees the public when they're in other capacities?
Well, we are and we aren't limiting it to public. We specifically wanted to address the public because we've had complaints in at least 2, maybe more departments from citizens that have come to use services. So we wanted to address that now, and we wanted to address it quickly. Again, treating it like it could be causing a hostile workplace environment or offensive in the workplace, that would cover the employee to employee displays or things of that nature. And as Michael can tell you, without getting into gritty details on individual cases, we have had those instances where employees in conversations have expressed things, and we either educate, discipline, review policies, and take those steps with the employees to make sure that it doesn't happen again. If it's found to be a reasonable complaint and the reaction is measured in reason to that complaint.
Well, and does this include tattoos? I mean, I
It
know,
could- It
I
could
know
if they
yeah.
were offensive to someone, and we would ask the employee to either cover them, or take some other steps to prevent it.
I know that FedEx and UPS ask their employees to cover their tattoos when they're in uniform, when they're delivering.
And I think that's the New York State Police policy as well. I'm not sure
Right.
if it's no tattoos or to cover the tattoos, but yes.
Okay. Anybody else? We need a motion on this, please.
I'd like to make a motion.
With the
Need
additions,
a second?
do we have the additions added or?
Doesn't sound like it.
Rob?
Rob says we don't need it, right? Addition.
Yeah, I mean, it may not be expressly broad enough, but I mean, we can look at it, and Sarah, we can add. I'm hesitant to say we're going to govern everyone's speech because that is such a protected right. I think we should start where we're starting now, deal with employee to employee interactions through human resources if they are having problems or offensive or hostile work environment, and take that route. I get exactly what you're saying, but I don't want to regulate in paper that far into the First Amendment realm.
All right, what I did say, and I'll send it to you, is any action taking to further expression of hatred, discrimination, and lack of tolerance. So that was my sentence. I'll send it to you. So
That sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree I think that addition sounds good, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah.
Okay,
Still need a second.
I'll
I'll
second it.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Carried.
thank you.
Okay, thank you all very much. Have a wonderful evening.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Michael. Have a good night.
Good night.
Okay, we have real property app with Suzette.
Hello, everybody. I just wanted to present tonight on give you a few updates on some of the things happening in the department. And I'll start with the reval projects. Currently, we are done with the data verification part of the 2021 projects. The 2021 projects are the towns of Germantown and the town of Claverick. We have completed that part of it. So now, as far as work for our data collectors, they have started in the town of Ghent on 2022 projects. We did meet online with New York State yesterday, updating them on the status of our 2021 and 2022 projects. And as far as the state's concerned, they are happy where we're at with both of them, and actually speak very highly of the process that the process and the services that our department provides for and with the towns. The process has worked out very well, which is a great thing. With that being said, with the two projects that we're doing for 2021, there's about 4,400 parcels. And the two projects that we have on schedule for 2022, there's almost 5,300 parcels. We may actually do an additional town if that was scheduled for 2021. We may include them in 2022 as well, which would bring that number up to about 6,500. And then currently we have the town of Ankrum on board for doing a 2023 project. And I have heard from a supervisor that was inquiring about possibly working with the county on a reval, and that might happen for 2023 as well. So we definitely have a few years worth of projects ahead of us, and we are continuing with that. So recently, our 2019 projects got word from the state that they will be receiving state aid for the completion, the successful completion of those projects. When they will be receiving that money, I'm not quite sure, but all 5 of the ones that we worked with, I believe it was 5, yes, all 5 of the ones that we worked with will be total for all, getting state aid just over $19,000. And the city of Hudson, who did their own project with a contractor, is expected to get a little bit over $6,100 for state aid for that project. So that's good news.
Suzette, I will tell you, Stuyvesant did get the money and it's in the bank, so thank you.
You got it already?
We did,
Awesome.
yeah.
So Stuyvesant got around $3,100. So that's good. Okay. Very good. I'm happy with that, hearing all the horror stories about aid money.
Yes.
Okay, so next on the agenda was just an update on STAR exemptions. I had reported in an earlier meeting to all of you about new legislation where the state was going to pull STAR exemptions if a property owner was delinquent on their property taxes by more than 1 full year, I believe it was. And that includes village taxes, town, county, city taxes, and school district taxes. And for our county, about 107 STAR exemptions were removed prior to school tax processing. So I figured I would update you on that. With regards to STAR, there are, throughout the year, there are STAR reports that the assessors receive. And we are on report number 8 right now, and there's a total of about 11 different reports that come out to the state with changes pertaining to someone having a STAR exemption, not having a STAR exemption, getting a STAR credit check, and so forth. So the process can be a bit frustrating at times, but nonetheless, we're on track with those. And another item I wanted to update you is small claims, SCAR filings. Property owners that own properties for residential 1, 2, or 3 family homes, if they're not happy with the decision of the Board of Assessment Review, can choose to go on to small claims court. This year in Columbia County, we had about 67 filed in our county. Typically, the small claims hearing officers start contacting the assessors. Those applications have to be filed in the county clerk's office by the end of July. And typically the assessors start hearing from the hearing officers to schedule hearings in early August or mid-August. The law says that those hearings have to be held within 45 days of filing of the petitions. I had reached out to our local court to find out what the status was for those, because our assessors were wondering, they hadn't heard from hearing officers. And I was told in mid-August that it was the decision of their district office that they were not to assign SCAR hearings to hearing officers at that time due to COVID. So I talked with them today, and actually they are now in the process of assigning those. So that's very good news. I'm just afraid of the impact, how it will impact town and county processing, but I'm hoping that they will go fairly quickly and smoothly, and we'll get decisions back quickly as well.
Suzette,
Yeah.
how does this compare with the number of cases filed last year?
I'm not really sure. I don't have that information. I can email it to you.
Thank you.
I would say it's probably fairly close to last year, although there were a lot of grievances in the city of Hudson last year, which I'm not sure how many small claims resulted from that. But this is 67 out of 36,000 parcels, and 67 out of 3 towns that we did revals for this year, which was probably about 7,000 to 8,000 parcels that were revaled. And actually, quite a few of these were in towns that didn't even do revals. There's a company, not a local company, that has reached out to property owners about representing them at SCAR hearings, and so that impacted some municipalities this year. But I will send you that number for last year. And one last thing, it wasn't on my agenda, but I just wanted to fill you in. One area that we are a bit behind with is our tax mapping. That we are required to map all of the changes that happen in the county and provide those maps to the assessors. We did lose one part-time tax map technician who resigned at the beginning of June after 41 years with the county. And we also lost another full-time employee. So between, being short-staffed and furlough days, it's definitely impacting that particular area of the department. But I definitely just want to end it with a shout out to the staff at Real Property, because I personally think everyone's doing an awesome job. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Suzette.
Night.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we now have a proposed resolution from Supervisor Hoteling.
Hi, guys.
Hoteling.
I thank you guys so much for putting this on the agenda. I was contacted by Judith Enck, who is here today, if anyone has any questions for her, regarding a bill that has passed unanimously, bipartisanly through both the Senate and the Assembly and sits on Governor Cuomo's desk. It is to ban the burning of firefighting foam up in Cohoes that is releasing PFOS into the air. And the PFOS is traveling in an easterly direction, most likely to Columbia and Greene County. So the Greene County legislature did pass a resolution urging Governor Cuomo to sign the bill that sits on his desk. I did include that in everyone's packet so they could see what had passed there. And Judith helped me prepare a proposed resolution for the Columbia County Board of Supervisors that basically is encouraging Governor Cuomo to sign the bill that sits on his desk that passed with bipartisan support unanimously through both houses, so that we can protect our air quality and water quality here in Columbia County. And I do have Judith here in case anybody has any questions about the resolution or about the burning of the firefighting foam.
I have a question. I actually like to know, do they have scrubbers at this burning plant and everything that's designed by the federal government and everything, or no?
I'm going to turn to Judith.
Yes, there are. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me. There are pollution controls on the Norlight hazardous waste incinerator, but when you burn firefighter foam, it's very slippery and it's a fire suppressant, so it doesn't burn well. So some of the PFAS chemicals, which are highly toxic, do get released into the atmosphere. And this is in the middle of the city of Cohoes, right next to a public housing complex.
Okay, thank you, Judith.
Sure.
Appreciate that.
Is there a copy of the bill that we could see? I mean, is there more behind this, or is this the entire bill?
It's Senate Bill 7880, which I'm sure you can grab off of the New York State Legislature website. It's sponsored by Senator Breslin, and it's identical to the Assembly bill. And as County Legislator Hoteling mentioned, it passed unanimously on June 9th.
That's fine. Could you give me that bill number?
Sure. It's Senate Bill 7880.
Okay, thank you.
It's included in the resolution title.
I was asking if it was the entire, if the bill was actually in the resolution. Is the entire bill in the resolution?
No, just the bill number for both the Assembly and the Senate is in the resolution, but the actual bill that we're encouraging him to sign is not inside our resolution.
Okay, I'd like to see that before I do further action. I mean, I just think it's prudent for us to do that. We're asking the governor to sign a bill. I get it, but we're focused on just one thing, and it is important. Please don't think that I don't think that it's not. But I think that it's not. But I would like to see the rest of the bill to see what it is we're encouraging the government to sign.
Absolutely. I'm happy to pull up both of those bills and email them out to the county government committee.
I could get it tomorrow too. Thank you.
Okay. Supervisor Chimides just posted the link. And Supervisor Knott, did your voicemail message to me, thank you, sorry I didn't get back to you, also mention that you did check in with emergency management and they were supportive of not burning the firefighting foam as well?
Yes, the fire coordinator's office was supportive of that, according to Matt.
Great, thank you.
So let me get this straight. Are you asking Robert to hold up on this vote tonight until you get a copy of this?
Well, I'd like to see what else is in the bill. Again, this particular item is very important. I can't see why we wouldn't want to do it, but it's part of a bill, and which usually has other things attached to it. And I didn't have a chance to take a look at it. That's why I asked, is this the entire thing? And it's not. So I would ask that we table this until the next time.
The only thing I would say is there's nothing else in the bill. It's not like a budget bill. It's about a page and a half. And it clearly says no burning of toxic firefighting foam in the city of Cohoes and it says in an environment, it actually says in a community of 17,000 or more in an area designated as an environmental justice area, which this is. So it's, as you say, sometimes you've got multiple things in one bill. This is a page and a half, and it's just what I just described.
Okay, I hope you don't mind that. I'd like to see it. That's all.
No, not at all.
And Supervisor Jerry, could I ask a favor? I feel like if it gets postponed to next month's county government, then we're actually into November before the full board would approve it. Is there any way to have a quick 5-minute special meeting before the regular full board meeting like we do sometimes, which would give you an adequate time to review said bill, but not until November to be in front of the full board?
Yes, there is, Supervisor. This is Supervisor Borrell. We can schedule a special the night of the board meeting.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
There's no reason to delay it.
I need a motion to table this, please.
I'll make it.
Okay, I need a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Michael, can you send everybody that link?
Yeah, I just put it in the chat, but do you want me to email it?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank
You can
you.
also Google it.
Okay,
Yeah, we actually just
email
pull it
it
up.
to
If we
Michael,
want, we can
email
pull it up
to me.
now. Because it is just 2 paragraphs.
And then Chairman Weigel, do we need a motion to have a special meeting, or would you just schedule that with Chairman Brown? Great, thank you guys so much.
Okay.
Thank you. Take care.
Everything good? Thank you. Okay, we have hands up, Sergeant Major. I think you're up next.
Hello, everybody. Kelly, do you have the resolution I sent you?
Yep.
You have it?
Yep.
Okay.
It's on the screen.
Yeah, this came in from the Association of Veterans County Reps. And it's nothing more than what we're already doing with, except one positive aspect to it, and that is that the county's paying for indigent burials now. And with this resolution, we'll be able to go to the state at the end of each year and get reimbursed up to $2,000 for each indigent burial. We were having up to $10,000 in indigent burials, and that's now down to, this year we'll end up with, it looks like 3 indigent burials. So that's come way down. A lot of it because I implemented a requirement that anybody that's requesting an indigent burial has to sign a sworn statement that there's no funds to bury the veteran. And that's taken away a lot of applications.
I'll move it.
Need a
Morel.
second? We have a second?
I'll second it, Ron.
Matt seconded.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Thank
anything
you.
else?
Yep, I just want to update everybody since the meeting we had. The biggest issue that we're having now is I'm getting a lot of veterans dying from, Vietnam vets dying from Agent Orange. I've had 6 deaths since the last time. I currently have 4 in hospice, and 2 of them, as of Sunday night, are making funeral arrangements. The family is, that they're so ill. Agent Orange has really taken a lot of us down. On the Dwyer program, we had our ribbon cutting and 52 people showed up. It was very successful, got a lot of positive feedback from that. Also on the Dwyer program, we're in the process, as you all know, of setting up an operations center. And the main reason for that is I have veterans that need to go for an appointment. I have one that has chest pain and won't go to the VA and be evaluated because they won't let his wife go in, and he says he can't remember what the doctor tells him. So in the op center, we're going to be able to have 2 computers set up so they can do video appointments with the VA and also with a comp and pen exam. I had a female veteran on sexual trauma last month that the VA tried to cut her compensation back, and we had her come in and do a video conference with the mental health and the VA. And this week she told me that it was reinstated back to 100%. So I think that's a good service we're going to be able to provide our veterans throughout the county. I have 16 new compensation cases that I submitted on standard ones, and 6 have been approved since the last meeting. I also have 18 new cases pending on the Blue Water Navy. And there's a special department now in the VA that's expediting Blue Water Navy cases. One in New Lebanon, I just got word this morning, has been reevaluated and approved for 100%. We've processed 16 grave markers and 16 presidential certificates. As of last Sunday, on the Sunday calls that I make every week, I finished 517, checking in with the veterans. Many of them are repeated calls each Sunday. And out of those, I've had nobody in the veterans community or their families that have the COVID-19. So we're happy with that. I did have one veteran, and I may have reported this before, who said that he was thinking of suicide, called the VA hotline, and they put him through to voicemail. When I called him, this was on Saturday night, when I called him on Sunday, he said, "Oh, I'm so happy that you called. I needed to talk to somebody." And I got him into inpatient at the VA, and I check on him every week, and he's doing fine now. And there's a lot of activities going on. I did attend Purple Heart ceremonies in Germantown last week, along with the 9/11 ceremony, which was very impressive. Went to Copake for their Purple Heart dedication of the town. And in Canaan, on a very rainy day, we celebrated 3 World War II veterans who had Purple Heart on the anniversary of the Purple Heart. Getting a lot of positive comments about the entrance into Columbia County where it says a Purple Heart County. That's going well. Also on the Dwyer program, going back to that, we have the billboards up around the county now, and I've had 105 phone calls of veterans who are interested in our day room downstairs. And as soon as we become operational again, I'm sure we're going to be flooded. Anybody have any questions?
Okay, Sergeant Major, thank you very much for your report.
Thank you.
Okay, we have fair housing up with Bill Fisher.
Mr. Fisher, you may have to hit *6 to get unmuted.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be talking to you. I hope everyone's well. The agenda that I submitted to this month's meeting is an abridged version of what I put out on the county website for the benefit of county residents on September 9th and September 10th. And I want to thank Kelly for helping me out with that. As you can see, we're okay until October 1st. The governor's moratorium on residential evictions expired on September 4th. In the meantime, Judge Lawrence Marks stepped in and he put a moratorium on the serving of any evictions until October 1st. So, you know, these dates keep changing and they get extended forward and so forth. So, on the next item, the governor, his last 2 extensions only covered residential property. So he stepped in and put an order out there to protect commercial tenants as well. As you can see, that's going to expire on September 20th. So I don't know what's going to happen to that. The Safe Harbor Act, that really is a catch-all for people and tenants who have experienced problems related to the COVID since actually March the 7th. So it works a little bit different in that these extensions of these bans, what they do primarily is defer the tenant's rent until the moratorium of the ban is lifted. However, under the Tenant Safe Harbor Act, the tenant, although not released of any liability to pay the back rent, the landlord does have the right to sue for any back rents. So just how that's going to work out, we'll have to wait and see. You may be aware that President Trump, in conjunction with the CDC, has put a ban on the evictions, for residential tenants who have experienced problems and hardships due to the COVID until year end. So just how that's going to play out with some of these other dates that are due to expire prior to that, it would seem to me that that's going to be something that would supersede some of the other state orders that may be in place. As you can see, there's a declaration that has to be signed, and it has to be signed under the penalty of perjury. And what it is really saying is that, that they don't make more than these amounts that I specify in here. And of course, Columbia County with, median income rates of somewhere around $45,000 doesn't seem to have a problem with these numbers out there. You can see that. So, so we'll see how that works out and plays into all of these other state orders and federal orders that we have out there. The COVID rent relief program, there was $100 million set aside for the state of New York. I understand that there have been some 90,000 applications for relief under this program, and the Homes and Community Renewal Division of the Attorney General's office is administering the program. I understand, too, though, that a lot of these applications are missing important information, and the HDC is giving them the opportunity to correct the application. So the money is going out very slowly. What this money represents is what they call rent to income burden, and so what they try to do is look at what percentage of income the individual was paying prior or making prior to COVID and what he was paying for rent, and then they apply that same percentage to the lower amount that they might be making due to the loss of income during the pandemic, and the government will subsidize the difference, and that difference will go directly to the landlord. It's not going to be paid to the tenant. So we'll have to see how that works out. I have no idea how many of the 90,000 came from Columbia County. Hopefully that data by county will become available. So, on the foreclosure situation, you can see that the government-backed mortgages, and that includes people who took a conventional mortgage from a lender, and the lender has subsequently assigned it to a government agency like Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae, and so they receive that same benefit of that 360-day opportunity to get into a forbearance arrangement to bring their loan current. In addition to that, I've heard, and I think it makes a lot of sense, that the homeowner may be able to add any unpaid mortgage payments onto the end of the loan, thus extending the loan without any kind of modification agreement and so forth. So that would be great for those homeowners that have these federally backed mortgages. With homeowners that are experiencing difficulty that are just dealing with their original lender, and their loan not being federally backed, they're encouraged to contact their lender to try to make some similar forbearance arrangements, and encouraged not to vacate their homes just because they're delinquent on their mortgage payments, because something may be able to be worked out. So, homeowners are encouraged not to, based on the fear of losing the home, just to vacate it or abandon it. They call those zombie foreclosures because they usually create a lot of repair, maintenance that has to occur, pipes freezing and all that kind of thing. So lenders generally would try to work something out, I think, during this, this period of the pandemic, because they don't want to inherit the obligation of paying taxes, making repairs, winterizing properties, and so forth. So, any calls that I get, I certainly encourage the people to do that. Also, the thing that is important with paying rent, I think, a 30% of whatever income you have is reasonable for a rent payment. And even if it doesn't pay the entire rent to the landlord, it gives the landlord the opportunity, hopefully, to pay their monthly obligations, as well as to make any necessary repairs. So I encourage everybody to pay whatever they can, and 30% doesn't seem reasonable, or unreasonable, I should say. So, these are kind of the things we're dealing with. As far as calls, I just got those listed here, and I work with the folks trying to encourage them, point them in the right direction, and so forth. One of the things I am seeing, though, and I think it has something to do with the upsurge or upsweep of property sales, is I've gotten several calls where tenants have been told that the homes that they're living in are being sold, so want to know what their rights are. And of course, their rights would be the same as whatever the orders of the whatever bans exist on the for the evictions and so forth. But it's important that they know what their rights are, and that only a court can set the date when they're out. Got a call the other day where a woman got a notice that she had to leave the property because it was being sold by the end of the month. And, of course, I always suggest they contact an attorney on something like that, or call the Attorney General's office helpline. But, that certainly is not sufficient time, and probably not even permissible at this point in time. So that's about where we are. I'm trying to keep up with any extensions of these dates and so forth.
Okay, Bill, thank you very much. It was a good report.
You're very welcome. Have a good evening. Everybody stay safe.
You too. Okay, we have planning in the EMC, Patrice and Ed Simpson. Patrice on there? Yes, yeah, there she is.
Patrice, you're on.
You got to unmute, Patrice.
Oh, she was there.
Patrice, did we lose you?
I know how it is when these computers don't work.
All right. Let's go
Resolution.
let's go to the historian,
Okay.
and then she can figure out what her issue is.
Can you
Bill,
hear
better?
me? Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Bill, better.
Boy, that's amazing. So I just have a few things to bring you up to date about, and I had mentioned this in a memo that I'd sent to you folks about Tales of Old Columbia, which is the Chatham Courier used to print this little article every week, and I had in my possession 40 or 50 of these articles. They were printed in the 60s and 70s. I contacted the editor slash publisher, and she was happy to have this, and they have put it on the Chatham Courier page every other week. And the first one started 2 weeks ago. There was another one today. The article that was printed 2 weeks ago was about the Chatham Fair because it took place around the time we would normally have the fair, and the one today, and I'll direct this to Supervisor Adams, is about two sisters that used to live in Canaan that were noted authors. And one of them wrote a book, which you will occasionally see around available. It's called Queechy. And they were very popular authors in the first part of in the early 1900s, the 1910, something like that. So I've gotten a lot of feedback. People, especially older people, of which I am one, remember this when it was published by the Chatham Courier in the 60s and 70s and 80s, and they're very happy to see this back. So as I said, I've given 40 or 50 of these, so they have enough of an inventory to do this for a couple of years. So if you get a chance, read it every other week. It's kind of interesting. That's number one. I wanted to also give you an update on the chapel down in Claremont. I had gratis some folks take a look at the place. One's a preservation architect, one's an engineer, and just to kind of take a look at the place to see the shape it's in. And I want to thank the facilities department for cleaning up the lawn. Um, as you know, I mentioned about having some kind of entity to help history and historical activities in general in Columbia County and that building in particular. Towards that end, I contacted the New York State historian, who is a public official appointed by the governor, and he's very supportive of the idea of creating some kind of friends organization. He's actually tried to do it on a state level. There are 3 municipalities that have something akin to that. I'm in the process of contacting all 3 to see how they set it up and what's involved. I did discuss this with the comptroller's office. They do not get involved with the tax returns and the annual reporting for nonprofits. You'll hear them sometimes referred to as 990s, which is a reference to a tax return / a reporting requirement. There's also reporting requirements to the Attorney General's office. I was told, however, that the current ones that the county have, which include, for example, we have a tobacco securitization corporation, which was set up 25 years ago. It is rather simple, and they actually farm that all out to a local accounting firm who does it minimally. I talked to that same firm. They said they would do something gratis if we were to set something up. So I hope to come back to you folks in the next couple months to kind of get some more crystallization of what other municipalities have done. I also want to look at what Historic Hudson has done with the Plum Bronson House. You might be aware that the Plum Bronson House is maintained by Historic Hudson, but it's actually owned by the state of New York. It's on I hate to call it, but when I was a kid, there was it's like a girls' school. It was like they used to call it the girls' school, but it's a part of the prison in Hudson now. So that might be a model that I would like you to think about. The other thing I will tell you is that on Monday and Tuesday, I'm attending the 2-day conference of the Association of Public Historians of the State of New York. I know we're in tight budget times, but it is in Tahiti. I'm leaving tomorrow. I got a good flight. You'll all allow me to, of course I'm being facetious, I sit at my desk and attend the conference, so but I will attend nonetheless. And then I have also tried to help the town of Austerlitz has been moving forward with a wonderful little museum that they're trying to open in October. If you get a chance, please look for its opening. the town of Austerlitz had a small town hall that was very well known because it was in a little stone building. With the assistance of the Ellsworth Kelly Foundation, they bought the historic Grange Hall next door, and they are now using that as their town hall. And the Austerlitz Historical Society and the town historian, they're going to have a little museum in what was the town hall, and they're trying to get it open in October, notwithstanding COVID. But it's been a wonderful exercise, and they are to be complimented at what they're trying to do. And the Austerlitz historian is a man by the name of Tom Moreland, who's a retired attorney out of New York City, and he has worked tirelessly to accomplish that, to create that museum. And he is also the chairman of the group of historians that meet, and we meet collectively historians in the county who wish to attend and participate, and we have very good participation. And he's also been involved with the little subcommittee that we have planning for the 250th anniversary of the United States of America, which takes place, as I previously mentioned, in the year 2026. I know it sounds like a long ways away, but we are going to be coming to you early next year to start talking about what each one of your towns can do and what we can or should do at the county level to get geared up for this event that happens in 5 years. Actually, and you'll see that both the state and federal governments are trying to do the same, and unfortunately, that has been overshadowed by other events this year. So,
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Better.
You're welcome.
Thank
Now, I
you.
also want to bring to your attention that there are some lovely pumpkins in the front of the building at 401 State Street. If you get
Yes,
it,
they are.
please
I
take a
don't know
look.
where they got those big ones. I'm going to try to find out myself.
My family farm was happy to share some of those. So,
And I thank you for my pumpkin.
and I did that for the town. And Ron Knott from Stuyvesant gets one too. I just haven't gotten that far yet. So
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, folks. See you later.
Get Patrice back. Okay. Okay, we'll have Patrice is up next.
Okay, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yep. Did.
Go ahead, Patrice. Okay, we have a resolution from Patrice. Are you still there, Patrice? No, you're not. Okay, appointing Colleen Lutz, Dr. Affley, as representative of the town of Ankrum to the Columbia County Environmental Management Council for 2-year term. Anybody have a problem with that? Yes, go ahead, Brenda.
I think I'm back now, Kippy.
Okay. Would you like to explain it, Patrice?
Well, I think you did a great job. I appreciate it. I'm sorry for all the technical difficulties I'm having. I won't go into the details, but yeah, so she's currently serving on the EMC for the town of Ankrum, and she has been serving. There was a little delay in the nomination getting to me, so it would be retroactive to January 1st for this resolution.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. That was quick.
Thank you. And
Thank
then
you,
the next,
Patrice.
thank you. The next item that I have on the agenda is a presentation by the EMC. They've been working on the Columbia County Climate Smart Strategy, and they've developed a strategy they'd like to bring to you to discuss with you. And you've received background information on the initiative. And EMC representative from the town of Ghent, David Newman, will be making the presentation. Chairman Simonson wasn't able to attend. So I'll turn it over to David now.
Hello, good evening, committee members. Thank you for having us. We appreciate your time. We'll try to use it efficiently. I'm going to just put up a presentation real quick, and if someone could confirm that it's visible, then I'll begin. I'm from Ghent, and I'm the representative of the EMC. I'm also an environmental attorney professionally. And is that visible?
It's up.
Yes.
Yes.
Great.
Yep.
Okay, excellent. Let me just go full screen and I'll jump right in. So we presented some background information. There we go. Which hopefully was helpful to explain what we're what we're talking about here, and I want to move through rather quickly so that I can take any questions that you have. The basic agenda is a quick couple slides on climate change and how it threatens Columbia County's well-being and our economy, and how climate action through this program, the Climate Smart Communities program, can help our county in a number of different ways. And then I'll describe the program briefly and then next steps. So the first is, according to the Natural Resource Inventory that was just completed, it's a great document. I give a lot of credit to the County Board of Supervisors and the EMC. It was before my time for pulling that together. It talks about climate change and it talks about local impacts. And I'm sure you're all familiar with it, so I won't read this quote to you, but there are significant impacts that we're already experiencing and that we're expected to see in the years to come, including significant temperature rise that we've already seen since the 1970s. These are current temperatures in the 2020s, the increase since the 70s that we've witnessed, and then projections by mid-century and then by the end of the century. And of course, as you go further out, you get a much wider range in the projections, depending on what we do in the next 20 or 30 years. That will affect whether we're closer to 6 degrees or 11 degrees increase in Fahrenheit. Obviously, these are projections, but generally what we're seeing are these types of impacts that are listed above. It's not just the environment, and I think folks that are outdoors people, that hunt, that farm, they experience daily the different changes that we're finding, and they have significant impacts on many of the industries that are important to Columbia County. More extreme weather also impacts our infrastructure and puts more demand on local government resources and interrupts business. There was a study that FEMA uses, which shows that $1 in prevention and planning saves approximately $6 in emergency response, and the sources below there. But whether that's $6 or $5, we all know that better planning will make us more resilient to some of the impacts that we're seeing. One thing that came out last week, which really caught my eye, was a federal report by the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, which talks about how climate change, it says, a world racked by frequent and devastating shocks from climate change cannot sustain the fundamental conditions supporting our financial system, and then promotes a transition to net zero emissions. So from an economic perspective, this is a real important threat to our way of life. The state of New York last year passed the New York Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, called the New York Climate Act for short, and it basically commits the state to net zero greenhouse gas emissions by mid-century, with 40%, a target of 40% in the next 10 years of reduction. This is important. 15% of the emissions can occur through offsets. So if there are still fossil fuels being emitted, they can be offset through things like forestry, reforestation, different land use practices that can sequester carbon. And that, I think, is very relevant to where we are as a rural county. And then quite a bit of a major shift in our electric infrastructure, 70% of electricity from renewables within the next 10 years, and 100% by 2040. And we're all seeing different proposals throughout the county on solar projects that obviously have both a lot of potential to help in mitigating climate change and also can present threats to our natural resources if not done correctly. So these are very important issues that need a lot of thought and planning. And then the Act talks about equity and really tries to direct the benefits of these programs to economically challenged communities, and so that the programs are within a proximate distance from people who really need them the most. The Climate Smart Communities program is basically a framework to try to organize and facilitate local action. It is not a mandate. It doesn't require anything of the municipalities or the counties that join the program. It confers complete local control. It's a step wise program that does not prescribe specific projects. It does not require the allocation or spending of local resources. It really starts with a resolution to join and builds from there, which I'll get into in a minute. There's a significant funding over the last 4 or 5 years. This year is a little bit different, as we all know. But the DEC has issued millions of dollars in grants through this program. NYSERDA has a companion program through a clean energy communities program, Department of State, and then private foundations and others. So there's an opportunity here for significant additional resources to the county. And 10 towns and 3 villages in the county have already joined on to this program and have made significant progress, which is outlined in the report, on things like EV charging stations and more efficient lighting that saves those towns some money, and some planning exercises as well. And there are a number of neighboring counties that have joined the program as well, most of our neighboring counties. So basically what we're asking to do and what the EMC has endorsed is that the county work with us to help us build a climate smart community, which starts with a resolution to say that we want to join this program, and then establishing a task force or a working group of sorts, which can develop work plans and help to implement them, and then designate a coordinator. And that person could be a volunteer, or they could be a paid person or part-time person. They could be someone that is a county employee, or someone that is seconded to some organization that's working in partnership. It doesn't prescribe how that works. And then create partnerships with other organizations. Now, these other steps that are on this slide are really dependent on the progress that's made by the committee, by the working group, in moving forward, in raising funds, in building public support, in working with their elected officials and the agencies of government, of local government, to implement. And there's no prescription that requires any of these things to happen. They're really dependent on what the community pulls together and does. And so what we're asking as a next step would be the county Board of Supervisors joining the program, and there's a model resolution that's attached to the report, authorizing the EMC to organize the Climate Smart Task Force, and then authorizing the task force to seek funding sources from a variety of sources to hire a countywide sustainability coordinator to work to help the task force, which would be comprised of volunteers, to do the work and present that work to the county on a regular basis, to work in partnership with the Board of Supervisors through a designated committee or some other means, to make sure that we work through these projects that are most relevant to our community needs in a comprehensive way, where all stakeholders and decision makers are informed along the way and have an opportunity to direct where we go with this program. So thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, David, hang on for a second. I'd like Ron Knott would like to speak on this behalf.
Yes, here I am, Kippy, and thanks, David, for the presentation. My name is Ron Knott. I'm Chair of Public Works, and so I've been involved in a number of energy projects in the county over the last 8 or 9 years. And many of them are what you're looking for is, energy consumption projects. And I could go on with details of them, but I won't bore you. But I don't think any of us need to debate climate change and the effects of it and the concerns of it. I think it's the actions that we do to try and mitigate it that becomes the challenge, as you know. What can we do that's real? But to go back in time, 2013, 14, the county renovated the Columbia County Courthouse. We added 30% of its square footage on there. And yet, we did it we changed lighting to upgraded lighting back then, energy efficient boilers. look at it the other day just because it's budget time. And in 2013, we spent $12,290 on natural gas. In 2019, we spent $4,900 in natural gas on that building, and yet we've added capacity to it. You know, we're constantly doing, bridge and large culverts upgrades to satisfy DEC stormwater regulations, and different things, as you know, that are heavily regulated by that. And I know that Knox, our county engineer, is always looking for funding. If the EMC can help us direct towards other funding that we're missing out on too, I'd be all ears to know about that. Solid waste you talk about a little bit. And again, we've had a lot of good ideas to do some upgrades in solid waste department. We're always lacking the funding to do so. And as you talked about quickly, the state funding is about dried up this year. They won't even reimburse us from a hazardous waste day from 3 years ago. So there's challenges with that. But yet, we understand that there are things that we could and should be doing. We're currently out to bid for a sewer line project that's doing away with a couple existing treatment facilities that I think is a large environmental advantage to it. More importantly, I don't know if the EMC is familiar with it, but we've partnered with a company called SmartWatt. We've kind of labeled them our energy services partner. And we've worked with them to gain energy efficiency in a number of our buildings. You talk about changing lighting, right-sizing equipment to reduce, energy consumption, to both save the taxpayers money, save capital improvement costs, as well as reducing our carbon footprint. Phase 1 of our project is almost completed, and they've worked with the county to help us secure about $80,000 in utility incentives. We've reduced our energy bills by about $76,000 a year. We've reduced replacement costs by $62,000 a year. And this project is slated to conserve about 565 metric tons of CO2 each year. And as you know, that's a substantial impact. We are currently working with that same company. They're gathering data on other buildings, and we're looking at considering a phase 2. I did want to try and introduce some capital into that project, and that's an awful hard thing to do this year without any money, but we are going to have a presentation from them shortly. So I'd like to work with the EMC on this a little bit, because I think that we have, and I talked to the fellow from SmartWatt that we've been dealing with, and he would be happy to, share any thoughts with that and look at what the EMC is trying to accomplish. I'm not opposed to being a climate smart community. I didn't want to get us locked into any one thing or direction. As you know, some of these projects in municipalities can take 2 years to get them developed and worked out. And sometimes you start into a project because there's money for it, and then by the time you get there, there's no more money. We do have to do, capital outlays of projects. We were fortunate to be able to get $1 million grant to do our fire training tower here in the county this year. But we've laid out that money, and it may well be a year or more before we get it back from the state, So it's the capital investment part of it that becomes a challenge as well, too, But like I say, I'd be happy to work with you folks and talk more about it. I'm not opposed to being a climate smart community. We just don't want to get ourselves locked into any one thing, within it. But and I do have concerns on your task force and the EMC raising money to hire a coordinator, things like that. I got questions on that I'd like our legal department to review, and I will. We can share this information. I waited for today's proposal so that I got a better understanding of what you're trying to do. But I do thank you for your efforts. We need some of these things.
Well, Ron, can I respond to that real quick? I just want to say thank you, because you read off a very long list of accomplishments that you've been leading up at the county level, and it doesn't need to be labeled anything. It's progress. It saves money, and it helps our environment, and that's the key. And I see this really as an opportunity to coordinate some of these efforts. And I looked through some of the grants. I mean, the grant, DEC issues grants through this program. NYSERDA has separate grants. And if you look through in the report, they're all listed there for the last 4 years, you'll see a laundry list of projects that are substantial in size, the dollar amount, and very much in line with the kind of infrastructure projects that you've been working on already. And I think there's a great opportunity there. Now, of course, the climate smart budget comes out of the DEC funding comes right out of the budget, and we're not expecting grants this year. We've had grants for the last 4 years, so that's a problem. The NYSERDA funding is outside the budget. That money comes from the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, and then a fee on customers, on electric customers, and that money automatically goes to the program through NYSERDA, as you know. So there's still we're in the next couple of weeks. We're actually heard today expecting to hear on those grants. Now, our ability to qualify for the NYSERDA grants is connected to the Climate Smart program. The higher we rank in that program, the higher we rank in our proposals for grant funding through NYSERDA. And that's the kind of funding that led to $40,000 to Ghent, $35,000 to Chatham, $80,000 to Hillsdale over the last 4 or 5 years from that program. The last thing I just want to say, Ron, is we can get credit for all of those historic, not all, but many of those projects that you've worked on through this Climate Smart program. As we register the progress we've made, we get action points. If we get those points, then we can rank higher in our grant applications and have more of a likelihood to get those grants. So I'd love to work with you. I appreciate that offer, and I'd like to follow up after this so we can figure out an efficient way of doing that.
How do we continue this conversation?
Well, I think that this is Matt Morrell. I think Ron needs to get the Smart Watt people together with the environmental management, representatives and to have a discussion. And I think it should be sooner than later.
Could we do, I know everybody's committed out, but could we consider a subcommittee on this to move this forward?
So that's a good question, and I think that the EMC already is. EMC is an advisory committee to the Board of Supervisors, and I'm assuming that they're looking to be that. Or is this a separate part of the EMC? Does this come directly from the EMC, or is your okay? So I mean, we can.
Yeah, the EMC voted in July unanimously to support this idea of the county joining the program and authorizing the EMC to work with the county to help establish a task force, put forward names that we think would represent broad interests and some expertise, and then to help seek out funding sources to help facilitate the program. So we voted on that unanimously, and this is coming from the EMC, and we would be happy to there are certain people on the EMC that have been more active in our own committee on Climate Smart, and we'd be happy to coordinate with anyone who's interested on this committee to move the conversation forward.
Yeah, if I could,
I will send your presentation to SmartWatt, and I'd like to share the thoughts of it with the county attorney's office to just check out the action group that you speak of, see how that could get developed and who that would be and where it would be. How does it fit in county government? So, got some questions there. But.
Yeah. Well, let's work through those.
Yeah, I was just going to share sort of Hudson is going through this process now where we're planning on, we've sort of done the pledge and we're going to submit for certification this year. And most of what we've been doing is actually just documenting the work that's already been done because we've done a lot of actions. The city of Hudson's done a lot of actions. We're doing a few things to add to it. And I would imagine it would be a similar process for the county where a lot of it is just sort of, there is this giant checklist and a lot of it is just figuring out what have we done off of this checklist and what haven't we. And then the useful part of that is you can showcase to the public, we've done the following 26 actions that are good for the climate. And then it also sort of showcases, it sort of helps rise to the top the things that we haven't done. there might be a few ideas off of this giant checklist that were like, these 4 or 5 things might be the next things for us to do that have sort of been benchmarked across the state as good actions that, hey, maybe we should take. And some of them are simple, like, you know, updating your website with a list of things. And some of them are much more expansive, you know, composting program or something like that. But I would see that if, you know, if the EMC is willing to do a lot of this documentation, I think Ron probably knows a lot of it off the top of his head, but I could see just like conversation between the EMC and Ron doing a lot of that, sort of preparing a lot of that stuff, and then working with Kelly or somebody to get sort of like the actual documents to submit. And I think that would be really helpful for the county to showcase all the important work that we've done and help sort of tee up what those next projects would be. I think it's great to talk to SmartWatt, but I think ultimately there's a couple boxes that like are around energy improvements that I think like the SmartWatt project will be related to. But ultimately, I think it would be, I guess that'd be, I'm not sure if they need to be involved, whether or not we move forward with it, but I think they would be really helpful with the documentation of what we have done.
And coming from experience in Kinderhook, we've had a committee for 2 years already.
Mhm.
And so that committee is the ones that does all that legwork and so forth and looking for the grants and what is best for us to do, along with what we can do and make it better. And I think you need to really sit down and look at everything like Ron wants to do. And you really have to focus on that, because if we didn't have that committee for 2 years, to be honest with you, probably wouldn't have it now. To move forward as much as we have. We just got a $30,000 grant to improve lighting and other stuff. So I think you really have to like sit down with Ron and really look at all this and be joint effort on it. And because it helps.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Okay, anybody else? Have anything? Do we need a resolution? You want to wait on that? Is that what we're talking about, Ron?
Yeah, let's discuss it. They've given us a sample resolution that we can easily, format into a county resolution. I think it's just the task force questions that we need legal to answer on a couple of questions, how it gets carried out.
Okay.
That's not really part of the resolution anyway, I don't think. So that's
So
a
are we looking to make any motions tonight?
No. I don't
Are
think
you
so.
adjourning it or holding off till next month?
Yeah. Let's just talk
Sit
about
back
it
and
a
wait.
bit further. But we
Okay.
will work on it.
Okay.
Okay.
We just do have one more resolution before the committee gets off.
Okay. We have a resolution that you got it, Kelly, right?
Yeah, it's a resolution from the county clerk's office authorizing to formally adopt the updated records retention and disposition schedule for the New York State Arts and Cultural Affairs. This is the county clerk's office. As of August 2020, the state has changed their guidelines for records retention. So the county clerk is looking to adopt this resolution to adopt the changes as of August 2020.
Do you know what those changes
I'm going to
are?
move on that. I was part of that.
Okay, that's there.
Yeah, I'll move it, Fury. Yeah, we're all gonna be required to do it in our towns too.
Yep.
Okay, I
Yeah,
have a
so-
motion and a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any aye?
Yeah,
Okay,
but with any opposed.
all right, thank you. I think that's it, right, Kelly? We need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a
Make it.
motion. Or second.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Kip.